Can't hear you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live broadcast of Adults Only. I am your big brother Jahi, and tonight we have a subject matter that just cannot wait. Chazz will be here in a second, but the subject matter is called African American youth suicide. Speaking of the guy there he is now. What's going on, Chazz?
Not much. How you feeling today? Can you hear me clearly now?
I can hear you clearly now. So
Okay.
we're going to be talking about African American youth suicide. Isn't that a serious subject, wouldn't you say?
Terrible. It's a terrible situation to talk about because a lot of African Americans are suffering through this. But yes, this is something that we all need to talk about. And in fact, I think a lot of us try to sweep it under the rug and make it seem like it's not that big of a deal, but it's very, very crucial.
Okay, well, let's sound the alarm. And I think you have something to say to the people. You ready to talk to them?
Yes.
All right, go for it.
The rising rates of suicide among African American youth have become alarming crisis. With the number of African Americans children taking their own lives more than double in recent years. This stark and unsettling trend not only shatters families and communities, but it also represents um but also it exposes deep-rooted societal issues and systematic inequalities that must be urgently addressed. The silent epidemic of young youth suicide among African American demands our immediate attention and action. As I'm sorry, every lost life represents a profound failure to provide the support and hope that our young people so desperately need.
That's right, big brother. I think we need to really talk about this. And I don't see a lot of us getting excited. In fact, a lot of us are not even aware how desperate and how dangerous this situation is with our youth. We're losing our young people.
Yeah,
And I don't see the alarm being sound. I hear a lot of alarms being sounded about social media and
right.
different things like that. But I don't hear a lot of people talking about the importance of how we must take this bull by the horns and try to help our young people because it's African American youth suicide. So
Right,
that's today's topic. That's today's subject.
right. We got a comment. Ain't Faso, Sister Janie says, hi, y'all. Hey Faso. Sister Mashana comments. She says, hello.
Well, Chaz, let's go back to the very outset and let's talk about what the actual concept of suicide means because sometimes we don't define what the word itself means. But when we say suicide, what do we mean?
Suicide, the action of killing oneself intentionally.
Taking your own life. Now, that's something huge. That's something big. And I think we need to draw attention to this. But again, I don't know if we're going to get the response that is needed in our country because we seem not to be caring about those things that are important. We have videos to show, we have data to show about how we're losing our youth, these young kids starting off at the ages of 3 all the way to about 19. African
Mm.
American youth are taking their lives. But the question remains here, Chaz. What is this?
Number one, why don't we talk about the continued rising rate of suicide amongst African Americans? Like I said earlier, I think we have this common theme to say, and this is terrible that people say this. Oh, the people who talk about suicide, they're just seeking attention. These young people just looking for attention. And I don't think that that's the case. A lot of us, I'm speaking about African Americans, of course, when we talk about this, they're crying out for help. They need someone to talk to. They're going through something that's terrible. And for people to say that it's not that important, it's terrible. But in another thing I'll say just real quick and I'll pass it back is that I think some of us, there's a group of people who do know that this stuff is going on. But like I said, they try to sweep it under the rug and make it seem like it's not as big as me and you are making it out to be.
Yeah, I think we are majoring also on the minors. We talk more about entertainers and sports and all of this than we do about what's really going on. And that just shows how we as an adult in the United States of America, African Americans, we got our priorities all mixed up. You can't get a peep out of us when we talk about this, but you can
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of stuff out of us when we talk about the silliness of who's doing what on social media, and that kind of thing. And so we don't make this very important. Now, there's a video that we often show, but I think we need to show it again where some
Oh,
brothers
yeah.
sitting around the table and they're talking about the importance of how we should address this suicide issue that we have. So I
Yes,
want to
sir.
see if I can dial that up and play it here for us so we can see that this is a serious matter.
Okay.
New at 6:30, a national study released this week shows startling numbers of suicide rates among young children, specifically young Black children.
News Channel 5's Jonquil Newland spoke with local experts about this issue and the resources available to families.
Suicide remains one of the leading causes of death for teenagers in Tennessee between the ages of 10 and 19 years old. And when we look deeper into those numbers, we find even more disturbing statistics.
At youth villages in South Nashville, clinicians are busy answering calls for help and assistance.
We see that our call volume pretty drastically increases after kids have been in school for about 6 weeks or so. And then at the end of the school year,
Brittany Farrar is the director of their specialized crisis services and says a recent National Institute of Health study shows younger and younger children are committing suicide, specifically of a certain race.
specifically for African American children aged 5 to 12, they are roughly 2 times higher risks for suicide rates.
Farrar says a few factors likely play into this. For instance, families in general may not be as aware of both the risk and resources available. Also, younger children don't have a thorough understanding of death or what happens after death. But the biggest factor may be the access to the means to commit suicide.
So it's really important that families secure any weapons, sharps, medications in their home, because the more accessible that means are, a child young like that might make an impulsive decision that then they can't reverse.
She encourages parents and adults to monitor children's social media and behavior patterns.
Maybe it presents more as acting out behaviors or irritability.
If help is needed, these practitioners are just a call away.
Calling doesn't necessarily mean that your child's going to be hospitalized. That can be a big fear. What we want to do is try to help connect with community resources so children can stay in their home.
In Nashville, Jonquil Newland, News Channel 5.
Thanks, Jonquil. The study also found that suicide is more common among white teenagers between the ages of 13 and 17. You can contact Youth Village Crisis Hotline at 866-791-9222. Now, we will show you that number again in just a few minutes. You can also find it on newschannel5.com.
Okay, you see that, Chazz? It says that the suicide rate amongst African Americans youth is twice as much. Why are we not talking about this, Chazz? This is what I want to keep challenging you and myself about. Why do we rather look at things that are so minute as opposed to this crisis? They're telling us all over Tennessee, Texas, Alabama, California. Why can't we get a discussion about this?
Like some probably say that, like I said earlier, that me and you are making this up. It's not as big as we make it out to be, and we just need to relax. But I just want to say this too real quick. Even for the children like in Chicago and Louisiana, those states like that, they're getting hit by this as well. And it's not only just one specific region. It's terrible. It's a terrible spot to be in. And I feel sorry too, brother. What do you say to those parents who have to bury a loved one? A child that's 5, 6, 7 years old, and they go in their room to wake them up from school, and they see that they done blew their brains out. What do you say to those kind of parents?
I say that we have failed them as adults. We have failed them. And I noticed this next question here. I need you to read this because I want to comment on it because it goes back to the last video we just saw.
Number 2, who should be leading this discussion about young African Americans committing suicide? Personally, go ahead.
But you notice that there were European women. I know it was a newscast, but the organization there were white women trying to reach out to help. Where are all of the African American men and women? Where are we? Why aren't we leading this discussion? Why are we talking about other things as opposed to we're losing our future, and yet we don't seem to have pretty much a care for it. But you can see this. We should be leading the discussion. Grown African American men, grown African American women. You know, we should be the ones leading the discussion, but we're not talking about that. We're too busy pissed off about something that's so minute. We're too busy looking at sports. We're too busy shaking our butts at a concert. We're too
we
busy
know you didn't.
trying to make money. We're too busy trying to find a man. We're too busy trying to find a woman. And Chaz, we're losing our babies, man. So I
Yes.
think you would have to agree with this. We should be the ones that's leading this discussion about our young African Americans who are committing suicide, man. Little bitty kids are doing this now.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, brother, on this question, I don't think it's a specific uh age. If a person comes across this information, share it. I don't think it's like a number. You have to be 30, you have to be 40. Any person who comes across this information and can articulate themselves without being drunk or under the influence or making fun of these children, anybody should be posting this. And once again, in the African American community, I do think we do need stronger leaders who will put this information out on social media, barbershops, hair salons, things like that. These things need to be discussed.
Well, let's look at another video. If I can find these brothers who were talking, I think this is the one here.
To talk about in terms of healthcare are those issues that relate to the mind, mental health, that those are taboo just to talk about. And so until a person gets where they have no choice, then most of the time we don't even discuss it. The other issue for children and teenagers that is a growing issue is suicides. I've had suicide funerals in the last 2 years than I've had in the 40 years before. So suicide is a major issue.
You see, but see, nobody's talking about that. He had to bury more African American children who have committed suicide than he has at his church, just people dying, you know, because of natural causes. This speaks to us. But again, Chaz, I believe right now that we live in a place, and when I say a place, I want to be specific. We live in the United States of America, and we are so screwed up mentally. We are so screwed up psychologically and emotionally as adults that we see all these things going on, and yet we don't care to do anything about this. This is a major issue that's going on in the African American community. It's going on right under our noses, and we're not even talking about it, Chaz.
Yeah. And like I said, I've mentioned that video. I go to that video a lot. We talked, and I think I talked about it last week on a little teaser about how that gentleman had to bury those kids at an alarming rate. And I'm pretty sure he may not say this on camera, but in his heart, that has to do something. If you have a soul, if you have a heart, if you have love for individuals, that has to do something to a person who's burying a person's child, seeing another parent crying, seeing another father in tears. It's a terrible, terrible spot to be in.
Really, really.
Note, a huge hurdle that fuels the suicide rate among African American youth is self-hatred.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Chaz. Please, self-hatred. They hate themselves.
Yeah, and this is in school. I would say any kid that's from the ages of 3rd grade on up, they get teased, they get bullied, especially the blacks. They say our mouths are too big, our noses are too wide. They talk about the hair, they talk about their clothes, they talk about their upbringing. And these kids internalize that for 365 days of the year. And then before you know it, these kids may not be killing themselves with a gun, but brother, they're harming themselves, taking pencils, stabbing themselves, marking on themselves, cutting on themselves, or even sometimes putting bruises, punching on themselves because they're trying to get this stuff out. But yes, self-hatred is something that I don't put it like this. I don't think there's an age limit for self-hatred. I believe that it can be done at school. Social media does it. Brother, this stuff is so many different avenues that you can grab this thing at.
Yeah, because self-hatred is like what a person doesn't like. A person they try to destroy. If somebody hates something, they'll try to destroy it. But the problem is when a person is taught to hate themselves, then they want to destroy themselves. And this is what we're talking about. It's not just our youth, it's our adults as well. But tonight's subject is African American youth suicide. Have we waken up yet? Have we gotten our heads out of the sand? When our children are being taught to hate themselves, because that's the question. Who taught our youth ultimately to hate themselves in order to want to destroy themselves? Who infused or indoctrinated us into this ideal and ideology of hatred, you see? No, who Who inserted this into our minds? These are some serious questions that we have to deal with. When they are taught to hate themselves, where are they taught to hate themselves? You know, the history of oppression and slavery has taught us to hate ourselves. You know, racist ideologies and white supremacy has taught us to hate ourselves. The educational system has taught us to hate ourselves. And here's something else, and I'll give it back to you, but even some of our own family members who bought into this whole white superiority complex, and they have internalized it, and now they've turned themselves on us. So now we're the ones who's hollering at our kids. We're the ones who are putting our kids down. We're the ones who calling them names. We're the ones who are making them feel unwanted. And so they have nothing to lose for when the system does it. The educational system, the government does it. Now their friends do it. Now the family's doing it. And I don't think we're going to get many comments tonight because people are hiding behind these cell phones instead of saying, I ought to be ashamed of myself because I'm saying that about myself. I ought to be ashamed of myself because I don't even draw attention to this unless we do a broadcast. So I must do a better job at it myself. But yet at the same time, most of us are going to hide, Chazz, and we don't want to be honest. We are some of the most biggest hypocrites to walk the face of this earth.
I want to touch up on a video. We showed this before, and this video has been all over social media, where there was a young girl. She was getting her hair braided by her mother. She had to have been at least maybe 3 or 4 years old. She looked in the camera. She looked at her mother and said, Mom, I am ugly. And this mother had to look at this child and tell her, don't say that. Now, here's my question about that video. Who taught that young girl at the age of 3 that she was ugly? And once again, the mother calmed her down and the mother made her feel better. And then she eventually stopped crying. But the point is, that was a disturbing video for a child 3 years old already feeling that way about herself.
Yeah, that's that self-hatred that we're talking about. And unfortunately, Chazz, many of us haven't done anything to ourselves as adults, but we carry that same self-hatred that we carried when we were youth. And now we're just older adults who are struggling with ourselves. And that's why these kind of discussions aren't important to us. And so I want to show another stat because all we're doing, Chazz, tonight, we're giving out statistics, we're showing videos, and yet people are just sitting there and they know that we're all at fault. But this is a problem. So let's look at this thing. Let's look at this statistic that tells us that we're going in the wrong direction.
Okay.
Look at this statistic, man. Look at this statistic. It talks about from the years of 2001 to 2020. Look at all these different colors represent our people, our children. This little bitty one on this line here that I'm showing at the bottom, it represents kids from the ages of 0 to 4. This red one is also, it represents the age of the kids from 5 to 9. Now look at the line 10 to 14 is that blue one. 10 to 14 years old. Look at this line, and then look at our 15 to 19-year-old kids. And look at what is going on. Our kids are killing themselves, man. And I know I'm excited again today, but this kind of subject, I can't sit still and act like all is well and everything is hunky-dory. Brother, this is a serious problem. Look at these statistics, and you mean to tell me that no one is sounding the alarm? No one is reaching out to our children? Because we have some things that we can do later on in the broadcast if we get to it tonight. If not, we'll talk about it next week. What can we do to help save our babies? And this is what I'm saying about having an adult conversation. That's why this broadcast is called Adults Only. It can be seen every Wednesday from 6 o'clock Central Standard Time till 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. It can be seen at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. But you see this statistic, Chazz? This statistic is terrible when it comes to look at these lines and look at what our kids are doing to themselves, especially the 15-year-old to the 19-year-old. All of it is bad. I know you have something to say about this stat.
It's terrible. Once again, and I do think, and I just want to ask you a question. Do you think that the rise in social media like Twitter, Snapchat, and all these apps, do you think that this is escalating these children killing themselves?
Yeah, I think it has a great deal to do with it, but I fault us for not teaching them that social media is something that you should look at your discretion. See, I'm tired of following people that's not helping me mentally, psychologically, and emotionally. I'm tired of following people that just tell me jokes. You know, I'm tired of following people who just want to say the latest things that's out there now, as far as, you know, the different words that are used or the fashions that are done. We are losing our children, and we have to look at ourselves in the mirror, and we have to hold our heads down, because most of us, we're not interested in what I'm saying and what you're saying. And this is why we find ourselves in this predicament that we're in.
Yeah, that chart was terrible. This is some factors that lead to our young people taking their own lives. A, environmental factors. Deplorable living conditions where they live puts too much pressure and stress on them. Also, inadequate or substandard quality of housing, sanitation, and just access to basic necessities in a given area. So when you combine all three of those categories and we look at this situation, that will drive a person insane. They can't get anything like basic bread, or they can't buy anything like basic yogurt, things like that, to keep them up to par, or just things like that. These are just things that I would say that they're done on purpose to also depopulate some of us, especially, brother, in these ghetto neighborhoods. You go to any ghetto neighborhood, you look at these buildings, these places are awful. They're not cleaning them. Some of the air conditioners, I looked at the news this morning, this elder, 76 years old, died because her community refused to change the air conditioner, and it's hot now in the summer. This elder at 77 or 76 years old died. These are deplorable conditions that I wouldn't treat a dog like that.
And I'd have to add to that, because when you go to places like New York, when you go to places like Philadelphia, when you go to places like Chicago, you know, places like Dallas, and even here in San Antonio, you know, these places that they live in, these ghetto, these slums, these apartments are like 20 something stories high. They're rat infested, they're roach infested, and there are people trying to look at these little girls in certain ways. They got to fight every day when they come back. The boys are being molested, the boys are being threatened, the boys are being bullied, and all of this is going on every day. So they feel like they have nothing to live for, and people like us will keep our fat mouths shut and won't say anything about how we can try to help these kids, because we're living in a terrible time whenever an African American man or woman will not chime in, will not look at this, will not see that we are at an all-time low when it comes to our helping our young people who are committing suicide. We are giving you statistics, we're showing you videos, we're talking about it, and all of us are guilty, Chazz. All of us are guilty. And I'm going to show another video. Go ahead and say what you're going to say, because I got to show another video.
Sure. I was going to say, I wish I would have brought this to the broadcast, but basically even China is doing this now, to where these places who create these apartment buildings, they're not just creating them, you know, a few stories high. Brother, and I'll bring it next week, China created some apartments. Brother, these apartments were stacked so tall that they almost literally, and I'm not lying to you, they almost were literally touching the sun. And I'm saying, where are these people stacking these apartments like that on top of each other? But I think we both know the answer why. It's just terrible that they built these apartments like this on purpose to, you know, harm us. But I'll let you go ahead to your next point.
And you know, and I'll go to, but you know what happens on that, Chazz? The people that suffer the most are our youth. It's the youth that suffer. See, adults sometimes can work through it. We can deal with it. We're old enough. We can roll with the punches and all of that. But these kids can't do that. And this is why we need to have a discussion like this and show videos and sound the alarm, where we need to do something about our African American youth that are committing suicide. And this is the shameful part of it. A lot of us aren't even aware of this. We're so busy looking at social media, as I said earlier, trying to find a man, trying to find a woman, trying to find some money, trying to find some love, trying to get our health together, trying to do all these things, that we have let this thing go on right up under our noses.
Absolutely, brother. You hit that one on the spot. I know you working with that video, you dialing it up.
The suicide rate for Black youth in America is almost double what it was in the early 90s. At least 48 Black children between the ages of 6 and 14 took their own lives in 2016. Historically, the reported suicide rate of Black Americans has trailed behind the rate of white Americans. But now, things have changed.
How Black kids express their symptoms is different than what we standardly see as, sort of emblematic of depression.
Dr. Michael Lindsay is a professor at NYU's Silver School of Social Work. His work helps explain why Black children are now killing themselves at higher rates than their white counterparts.
The way that Black kids express their symptoms is more relational, how they are getting along with their peers, with family members. Black kids also tend to express their symptoms in hostile or volatile ways, so through anger and explosive behaviors.
And it's not just bullying. Poverty and other stressors can impact how Black children process feelings. And 34% of Black children under 18 live below the poverty line.
Mental health disorders and poverty are inextricably linked. So if you're living in a poverty-impacted situation, you're likely to have the resultant mental health issues that relate to stressors and strains of living in poverty.
So, how do we stop this? Schools are in a great position to help, but they are greatly underutilized. Systemic barriers can prevent them from being effective. Only 29 states require schools to provide some form of counseling service. And with constant budget cuts, counselors are often the first to go. In places like Philadelphia, where Black students make up nearly 50% of public school students in the district, one counselor could be responsible for up to 1,500 students, if the school has a counselor at all.
When you refer a kid or their family to school-based services, they're likely to go to those services rather than a community-based treatment center where you might refer them. Every school should be equipped with a mental health provider or a school counselor that can address those issues.
So, if we're serious about addressing suicide among Black children, we need to demand that schools cater to the needs of their communities. If we don't make mental health treatment more accessible to these kids, they just might take matters into their own hands.
Hey, thanks for watching The Root. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and subscribe for more videos and series every week. And let us know in the comments what you think we should cover next.
You know, Chazz, I gotta say something.
Go for it.
The lady said something that was powerful. It's in the form of a question. She said, if we are serious about this suicide issue. That's it right there. We're not serious. And you can't make people be serious. I can't make them be serious. They can't make us be serious. As a nation of African Americans, we are almost bankrupt when it comes to about the things that we should be doing. We are majoring on the minors, and the things that we should be addressing, we're not. This is preposterous. This is a shame and a disgrace. And yet most of us are still walking around our communities with our heads held high as if we don't have a care in the world.
Absolutely. Like you said, the sister said, if we're serious, most of us aren't. Like I said, we'll look at these videos, we'll probably feel sad for about 30, 40 seconds, or maybe once the broadcast is over. And then it's like, it doesn't really hit home, brother. And I've said this before, until one of our children or kids are hit by this, meaning they get a phone call from the principal saying they didn't kill themselves or someone has harmed them. That's the only time it appears that our people get serious about this stuff. Letter B, mental health and healthcare access. Untreated mental illness. An untreated mental illness can cause emotional, behavioral, and physical and health problems. People even who are schizophrenic, that I would say could easily kill themselves because they can say that they're tormented by demons or tormented by spirits, and these demons or spirits are causing them to commit suicide. And if you can afford it, if you can't, so be it. But you should be able to have access to health care to get yourself checked out, to get yourself looked at if you're not feeling right in the mind.
Yeah, a lot of these children, our youth, they need guidance, okay? And they're dealing with a lot of mental health issues and healthcare access. And it's like they're reaching out to us, but we're not listening to them and we're not doing anything about it. And just like the brother just said just a few minutes ago in the video, he's saying that we have issues that other people don't have. We have issues that a lot of other so-called racists don't have. And so when you put all that in a pot, you see young kids, because the problems that you and I had growing up, they're different than the problems today. So we can't equate the problems we had with what the kids have today. They have more peer pressure, more stress, more bullying. They have more mental issues. And again, we are as silent as a church mouse on this subject because we're too busy looking at something on TV or got the cell phone every 5 seconds, and yet we won't reach out and say, hey, let me even look into what can I do to help someone. And I'm going to give our number here out. And if you want to, if there's a youth that's watching this or someone who knows someone, you can give us a call. You can call us and we'll talk with them or even try to refer them where they need to be. There are all kind of crisis hotlines here in the city we live in and in your city. But unfortunately, Chazz, we're not thinking about it. The number is 210-317-4575, 210-317-4575. So you see that this is a problem. And I know you want to talk about this next one before I show another video.
Letter C, family and community dynamics, not being able to cope with family and community. I'll take it a step further, not being able to cope when a loved one, such as a grandfather, grandmother, uncle, or brother, when they pass away. Because, brother, and I think that's a terrible spot to be in when you wake up and you don't have that significant grandfather, he's passed away. Some of our youth, I understand that it's painful and it hurts, but they take that and then it makes them want to commit suicide because this is the famous sign they say, I want to be where my grandfather's at. I want to be where my big uncle is at. I want to be where my aunties is at. So they take death and they try to match it, and you can't do that. And not being able to cope with family and the community, just always beefing, always griping. Brother, the beefs have gotten terrible to a spot now where family members are taking out family members. I mean, this is just how grimy it's getting now.
This is really, really true. And so this is what I was going to say, what you just said, because a lot of us family members, we put pressure on other family members. We're always putting them down, always arguing with them, always up in the air. We make life, listen, they already get it at school. If a person has a job, they catch it at the job. If whatever person is doing, we catch all this crap. Then when we come home, we should not be able to have to deal with the stuff that's going on in our own homes and our own apartments. But yet, this is the place where a lot of the stress comes. This is where people kill themselves because family members are so pig-headed that we don't know how to create an abode of love, a nest or a haven of concern and compassion. And so this is why our youth are killing themselves, because our family and community dynamics are all out of whack.
Letter D, cultural and societal pressures, racism and discrimination. I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, a lot of our kids are dealing with pressures because racism teaches you that you're nothing. Jim Crow taught us that we were nothing. Slavery taught us that we were nothing. And discrimination teaches us that we're nothing. And then our families try to tell us that we're nothing. Boy, you'll never be anything. You ain't no good. And these little kids, they internalize that, you see. And as they get older, they begin to feel, I have no need for living. I don't want to live anymore. I don't have any reason to be alive. So therefore, I will be better off dead. And so they begin to think these things out. And people like us sit here and all we think about is putting some food in our mouths or going to put something in our bellies and not looking at, we have some serious problems in our communities, the African-American people. Our youth are dying. Our youth are committing suicide. These youth today are committing suicide at an alarming rate. But yet you don't hear anything about that because, as I keep saying, we're majoring on the minors, and most of us adults are sick psychologically, we're sick mentally, we're sick emotionally, and we don't have enough wherewithal to say, let me prioritize that which is important. Our babies, our youth are important to us, Chazz. I know you would agree with that.
Absolutely, 100%. I do agree with everything you just said, especially in the racism. I don't think racism is as bad as it was like back in the Martin Luther King days and those kind of days, but racism is still around and it's bad now. And a lot of our youth, they don't know how to fight this thing off a clean and natural way without violence. And these things, it's just taking over our young African brothers and sisters at an alarming rate.
Yeah, I'm looking for another video that we have. I guess I must have let it play, but yeah, there's another video I was trying to get. But at any rate, let's continue the discussion because
Well, I don't know what happened. Seems like this brother accidentally logged off. I'll try to keep this one going until he comes back up, and then I'll see. But as he just mentioned, our youth, they are killing themselves at a high rate. This is know anybody that's still dealing with this. Try to speak and mentor with them. Big brother, are you back on?
yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
We got a comment too. When you came back on, Nuji says, "Peace and blessings, fam. We appreciate her for logging in."
Yeah, so suicide is something that we don't talk about, Chaz. Suicide is something that we sweep under the carpet. But here's another reason that people are committing suicide. We're talking about our youth right now.
Letter E, educational awareness. Lack of proper education about the importance of life. Yes, some of us, our youth, I think they're obsessed with the whole bling bling iced out culture, jewelry, watches, and those things have their time and place, which they're okay. But they're not teaching them, about health. They're not teaching them about bills. They're not teaching the youth about responsibility. They're not teaching the youth about things that are important. And when they're not getting these things taught at school, because I don't think the schools are teaching them this, they're getting these things through social media. Well, they try to, and these schools, they ought to be ashamed of themselves of not teaching these kids the importance of life and not working for others as well. Work for yourself. Teaching them these basic things should help them try to avoid this.
Yeah, because the educational system we know is stacked against us, but since we know it, then why aren't we teaching our children? Because the educational system is teaching our children that they're nothing, there'll never be anything. It goes on and on and on and on. But since we know this, why are we not lifting our children up when they come home? Why are not mothers and fathers encouraging their kids? Why are not grandparents talking about this subject? We don't even touch this subject, but like you said, and this is what you always go to, and you're right, when it happens to one of our children, when it happens to one of our grandkids, then we want to go and slang snot and do cartwheels and say, well, we went wrong, when we're telling you now this is a major problem, Chaz, within the African American community. And I think that we just need to look at what's going on now, as I'm showing a chart here as to what's really going on. Look at this, Chaz. Look at this.
Wow.
You see, this is an enduring call for action. The alarm is ringing. And as we look at these different charts, we look at 2009 all the way to 2021. These are four different factors or sections of African American youth. And the first one we have is 2009. This light blue one is the total. Then you got the red one, which are the males. Look at the females, man. Our kids, our sisters, our young girls are killing themselves more than anyone else. Then look at this here other one. This is the LGBT community. The LGBT community. Now, again, what people do with their lives, that's their personal business. But look at this chart in 2000, looks like it's 16 or 15, and then 2019. These people they're being pressured, they're being challenged. And so we're killing ourselves. And yet nobody is talking about this, but we're talking about everything other than this. Look at these numbers. This ought to make everybody that's looking at this say, I got to get busy. I got to get involved. But instead, it makes them say, yeah, that's a good subject, but it's business as usual starting tomorrow. Look at these numbers, man. These numbers are ridiculous. Look at this, the female, this blue one represents our young girls. And look at this red one. It represents our males. And then this yellow one, again, the LGBT community. So here we have people that are killing themselves, and they're showing us, Chaz. We don't have to guess anymore. Here are the statistics, but yet no one is saying anything about it because, once again, we don't want to hear this, Chaz, because it makes us feel uncomfortable. We don't want to hear it because we know that we're not going to do anything about it. So all we're going to do is sit around and complain until it comes to our doorstep.
Letter F. Trauma and violence, constant exposure to violence. And this is a big one. On the YouTube that they're watching videos of violence, playing video games, Call of Duty, all this violence, seeing the cops gun us down like dogs, all this violence. all these avenues for all this violence and trauma, and the media does a good job in making the violence and thugs and all these people make them out to seem to be good people, and our young ones are internalizing that, thinking it's cool to kill people, thinking it's cool to have shootouts with people, things like that. And when they internalize these things throughout the years, then they try to reenact this stuff out, and then sometimes they feel like, hey, I have nothing else going for myself, so I might as well off myself. I mean, they make suicide, and I hate to say this, they make suicide seem to be cool too, and it's totally not.
And you're right, Chazz, because we've been traumatized. And a lot of the trauma comes from our own homes. We've seen so much violence done to us, violence done to others. On the social media is violence. In the songs, there's violence. In the movies we watch, there's violence. Everywhere we go is violence. And so this violence is a part of life. So taking their lives is nothing, even though that's violence. That's violent as well. But because so much of it has been deposited into their hearts and little minds, they feel like, okay, it's okay to do this. But I'm telling you now, if you're watching this and you're young, your life is way more important than anything that you could imagine. And again, if you need help, please reach out to us, because we're here for you, and we don't want you to take your life. We don't want you to even have the thought of committing suicide. But you see, this is where we are now, because most of us are just grown kids. We talk a lot of stuff, but when it comes time to helping people, we're not going to help people unless it's your grandchild, my grandchild, your child, my child, your niece, your nephew. And this shows me how stupid most of us have gotten.
Letter G, bullying, especially among our youth. Now that is so easy. We could touch on that probably for the rest of the broadcast. Bullying on our young youth. This happens all the time in school because of the way that they look, sometimes the way that they dress, sometimes the way that they talk. Bullying can be made out of anything because of the clothes that they wear. And these young kids take that and think that the clothes that they wear, the shoes that they have on, they think that that makes them. And when people feel like it's not amount to anything, or it's not up to par, up to date, these children think that they're nothing. They think that they're scums. They think that they're garbage. And these young or older bullies are taking advantage of our youth. They're even telling them at a high rate, you know what? And these bullies are telling these kids that you'd be better off dead. And these kids, sometimes they go in the bathrooms and they do it to themselves. And it's terrible, brother.
I keep going back to us as a community, us as a society. And when I say us as a community and us as a society, I'm talking to African-American men. I'm talking to African-American women. We have been dealt with ever since we've come over here. We've been bullied as a people, and our kids are being bullied at school and so forth. And yet our kids are taking our lives, and we have nothing to say about it. You see, this is something that we should be discussing. Who in their right mind would turn an ear or would turn an eye from this kind of subject? Who in their right mind would see that our kids are reaching out to us, and yet we're not doing anything? I want you to read the next comment, because it's basically going to talk about what bullying is.
Bullying, aggression, harassment against those that are more vulnerable.
Yeah, this is where people are just making people do things that they don't want to do because they're vulnerable. See, and this is where we are now. I don't remember the last time I've had a discussion about African-American youth suicide. I'm being honest. Tonight, yeah. But before tonight, I don't remember the last time I've had a discussion about African-American youth suicide. So that tells me that as an adult, I need to put that in my vocabulary. I need to put that when I'm sitting around the table, eating dinner, Thanksgiving, all this nonsense. I need to start bringing this up to people. When I'm sitting around talking to my relatives or just talking to people, I need to start saying, did you know that African-American youth suicide is at an all-time high? And then we can start a discussion, because, Chazz, I'm telling you now, if we don't bring it up, no one else will. And that's why you don't see anybody commenting. And some people don't comment because they don't want to, and that's fine. That's why you don't see people saying, hey, this is a bad thing for us. This is because we've given up on our own kids, man. We've given up on our own relatives. And this shows that we have stooped to deplorable heights. And this is how we're going to end up.
What can we do to help our youth cease even thinking about suicide? And I think the Boys and Girls. Oh, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead and say what you're gonna say about the Boys and Girls.
Yeah, the Boys and Girls Club. I don't know if they still do this, but they think. I mean, I think they used to have something called Big Brothers or something, where it's basically where there was an elder there. They will pick up the child, I think once a week, take them to get ice cream. They'll talk about things, take them out, shoot basketball, just things to be active in that child's life. Because at a young age, the people at the Boys and Girls Club knew what a mentor would do. Now, some smart aleck will probably say, well, they can still do it anyway, even with the mentor. Yeah, but the chances are more slim if they have someone in their lives teaching them, guiding them, listening to what they have to say, or trying to figure out, hey, is anybody bothering you at school? What's going on? Let me know. I think that is an easy way to stop our youth from committing or having a thought of committing suicide.
Yeah, these are the practical parts now where everybody can chime in. What can we do to help? It says make time. We have to make time to talk with them when they want to talk and when they don't want to talk. We have to open up a conversation with them. And I'm thinking about those children that have been adopted. Mm-hmm. Some of those kids have gone through a lot. That's why they were up for adoption. We don't know half the things that their parents or their relatives or people have done to them. So here they got a new family. And now this new family won't even take time to talk with them. So they already feel low. So they feel like by me taking my life, it doesn't mean anything or it doesn't matter because I've already been through so much. So like you said earlier, I may as well end it because there's nothing going for me. And so we need to make time to talk with them, man. We've got to do a better job. And that's all of us as adults. And this is why we got a lot of chicken. We got a lot of chickens in the African-American community because we have to beat our chest and talk loud about other things. But when we should be talking loud about these kids, our babies, our youth, our grandkids, and all these youth teenagers committing suicide, we won't say one. This shows me how sad we are as a society.
Man, you really did. You hit the nail on the head. Letter B. Spend quality time with showing them the beauty of life. I just said that. You don't have to be a part of the Boys and Girls Club. Just even if you are a family member and you have a 13, 14, 15-year-old nephew or niece, and you see that they're struggling, or just picking up the phone and say, hey, let's go out. Let's go get you a hamburger from McDonald's. Just be active in that child's life. Show them that people care for them, because I'm willing to bet you sometimes they may not tell us up front, but their parents may be dogging them out. Them parents may be always criticizing and putting them down. When they see an elder or a person older teaching them or telling them good things, this can help them or motivate them to actually want to keep going with their lives. They need someone in their lives besides the school and the parents at home.
Yeah, now it says spend quality time. That's what's important. Quality time is not saying, boy, get out of my face. I'm busy now. Girl going, I don't have time for you. Spend quality time with them. And when we spend quality time with them, we should be doing something. We should be showing them, man, showing them the beauty of life. We should let them know that life is beautiful. Life is to be lived to the fullest. Didn't say you won't have problems. Didn't say you won't have ups and downs, challenges, but quality time shows them the beauty of life. Take them somewhere. Take them out somewhere. We don't do that because we're so selfish now. It's all about us. We don't say, hey, you know what? What are you going to do today? I'm going to go pick up so-and-so and we're going to go for a ride. We're going to go to the park. We've never said that because we're not interested in that. But if we say, what are you going to do today? We're going to go do some other things that's really up to no good. But yet these are the things we should do because the African American youth suicide, our kids are killing themselves at an alarming rate, and most of us are not doing anything. We don't even know that it's going on. We think that everything is good right now, and this is the sad part about it.
Letter C. Stop condemning them for everything they do wrong. There is a way to talk to our young people. Yeah, and you don't always, especially, and I'm not taking any shots here. If there's anybody listening whose baby father could be locked up in prison, this is not to you, but they always do this. You're going to end up just like your daddy, locked up behind bars, no good. You're going to spend all your time in jail where nobody's going to come visit you. Quit talking to these children like that. Quit telling them that they'll never amount to nothing. Quit always hitting them upside the head with objects when they don't do things the way you want them to. Quit always telling their business. And that's one that you got to do too. Quit telling their business to any and everybody, even if it's family members. These young kids, they come across the house, they hear you, telling their business, even though a lot of people say, well, he doesn't have any business anyway. That child still has feelings. You don't have to, spread his information to everybody. Now, let's be clear, unless he's getting hooked up to ventilators and his life is on the line, that's different. But I'm talking about the frivolous stuff, just, exposing his business to any and everybody that'll hear. Quit doing this to them.
Yeah, and stop hollering at them all the time. Everything they do, stop hollering at these kids all the time. And stop cussing. Stop cussing these kids out. I gotta say this, Chazz. Stop cussing these kids out like they're grown. See, we gotta, and see, this is our problem. Quit cussing at them, calling them names, always, talking about them in a negative light. And stop condemning them for everything they do wrong. They're kids. They're going to do wrong. They're going to do silly things. We got to stop hollering at them. Stop condemning them for everything they do wrong. And even when they do wrong, Chazz, there's a way to talk to them. If a child does something that they shouldn't do, because this leads to suicide. We don't like to think of it, but we're putting pressure on them. So they're afraid to do anything because they know they're going to get cursed out. So what I'm saying is this. If a child does something wrong, you can still discipline a child verbally by saying, hey, you don't have to do that. This is something that we shouldn't do. And here's why. That's a teaching moment. But all that, you SOB, you mother F, you this, you that, I'm going to do that. This shows a sign of a weak mind that has not grown up. Because, see, these kids don't need that, man. So we got to stop putting them, everything they do, they wrong. They can't do anything right. So now they feel like they're a failure. And so as a failure, they feel like I don't need to be here because I'm a failure. We add to that, Chazz. We know the school system, the government and all that has its part to play in it too. But a lot of us do that, Chazz. As relatives, we do that because we're always cursing at them, always hollering at them, always bickering with them. There's a way to talk to these kids. And this is why these kids feel like when they get a little older, I might as well leave this earth because I don't have a reason to stay.
And here's the thing too, and I'm gonna get to this. It's kind of has to do with what you just said. But here's the thing: if we have kids and we say, you know what, I need to go out of town or I need to stay extra for work today, can you watch my kid? 90% of the time, that person will say, I'm not gonna watch your son or I'm not gonna watch your daughter. They too bad. They tear up stuff. What do you expect for a kid that's 6, 7, 8, or maybe even 10, or even 14 years old? What do you expect? They're going to tear up stuff. They're going to get into things that they shouldn't. But to sit here and say, well, I refuse to watch them because they bad or they do too much. What do you expect for a kid that age to do? To just sit down and be quiet and not say anything at all? I mean, come on now.
And before you get to this next point, Chazz, let me jump in on this because you opened the door for me on this one. The reason why they don't want to watch these kids, I'm going to tell you why. Because we don't have conversation for them. See, when they come over to us, instead of saying, yeah, I'm going to sit them down and talk with them, I want to see what's really going on. We don't have conversation for them. So we don't want to be bothered with them. So we give them a tablet, we give them cartoons on the television, and this is what we think parenting in adulthood is. So instead of saying, okay, I want to watch your child for 3 hours, because you got to watch who you let keep your kids. That's a whole nother subject. But those who you know are straight on up and up, then they should say, okay, I know so-and-so's coming over here for a few hours. I got everything lined up. We can sit down, we can talk. Nope, when they come in with their phone, put the phone down. Let's talk. How you doing? No, what's going on in your life? And they're going to tell you, but because we don't want to be bothered, Chazz, we want to go in our room, close our door, cut the lights off, close the blind, and don't be bothered until we want to be bothered. And that's why our kids are killing themselves. But we want everybody to think we're something. We want everybody to think our lives are so together. We're posturing, man. And that's what's going on.
Absolutely. Letter D. Encourage them to get help when we see the warning signs. Yeah. And the warning signs are always there, even from their behavior. When they're always talkative and when they come home, they're not saying much. They really fast to run to the room. Or if you observe your child and you see that there's marks to their arms, you see a lot of scratches on their neck, you see there's a lot of scratches on her leg, or sometimes you may see a rope marks around their neck. These are all signs that you should be able to say, okay, something is off here. Let me see what's going on with my child. And if they are, don't condemn them. Don't, like you said, slam them and talk about them. Just talk to them in a nice way and say, you know what, Frank, is there anything going wrong with you? Give them help if you can. But there are always signs, brother. And the thing that makes me frustrated is that I don't know if we are just purposely ignoring them, or are you willing to tell me that us as adults, we are so busy with our own lives that we don't even see what's going on with our kids?
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. You nailed that one. We could care less. See, and then when something happens, then we want to act like we're so involved. There should be some type of warning signs that we should be actually looking for, like you just mentioned. And when we see those warning signs, we should encourage them to get help. You see, and this is what I'm trying to get us to see. We see the warning signs, but we turn what we call a blind eye to it and a deaf ear to it. And then when something happens, we'll even have the nerve to say, you know what? I caught somebody doing something or acting a certain way, and I was gonna say something, but I'm staying in my lane. You know, I ain't into that. That's and so these are the things that we have gotten so far away from just practical things. Chaz, I believe this with all my heart, and I could be wrong, but I believe this with all my heart.
Okay.
It's the adults. We have so many problems internally that we don't know what to do with ourselves. And that's why our youth are killing themselves. And that's why they're not being helped by us, because we don't even know who we are.
Letter E, show them love every chance we get, not just when they are down. Yeah, always show them love. Hug them. Talk with them. Don't just, like you said, go to your room. And it doesn't, showing them love doesn't always have to mean buying them stuff or buying them a gift. See, that's when we get confused. Like we have to go and get them an expensive gift from Walmart or Target. No, showing them love is just sitting down, communicating with them for hours, letting them know, listen, young man, listen, young girl, time is nothing for me. I have all the time in the world. Even though I have a job in the morning, I'm still going to sacrifice this time to be here to talk with you, get to know you a little bit more. Call me if you need anything. Don't be afraid if it's 2:00 in the morning and something is going wrong. Give me a text message. And if I don't answer the text, call me. See, these little things like that will ensure to a kid that, hey, my uncle or my cousin, he really does love me, or he really does care for me. And you shouldn't be afraid to put yourself out there.
You know, this point here, E, show them love every chance we get. That is huge, because we wait for the last part. When they down, we want to go buy them an ice cream. When they down, we want to sit down and say, well, everything's going to be all right. But we don't show them love every chance we get. We wait, and if they're up, we never show them love. So we wait till they're down. So you need a hug? You need somebody to talk to? Well, what about when they're up? They need someone to talk to. So this shows this backwards mentality that we have with our youth. We just wait until they're down and say, yeah, I went in so-and-so's room today and they had tears in their eyes. And I sat there for hours and I talked to them. I talked them out of crying. Okay, well, what about when they're happy? See, this is that mentality. This is that mentality that we have. Chaz, we might have to come back on this, because I think we only have about a minute left. And I know we got much more to say, much more videos to see. But you know, I'm just going to say this, and we're not going to have the music tonight. We normally have the little music when we go off, but we're gonna kill that. And I'm gonna take my part now and say what I gotta say, and then I'll let you close it. But I want to say Shimotep to everyone. We want you to go in peace, but don't take this subject matter that we're talking about lightly. Don't play with this, y'all. Just because it hasn't happened to you or it hasn't happened to me, don't think it's not happening. It's happening all around us. And so we have to open up our eyes and show compassion to these youth. And if you didn't know this, you should get off this broadcast, do your own research, put in this. Now you use social media for all other things, to get on YouTube and all of that. Go into Google and look up African-American youth suicide. And I bet you it's going to make you want to cry when you see how our kids are offing themselves for a lot of reasons. And yet we are not doing anything about what's going on with our children.
We got a comment. Sister Mashonda says we have to do better. Absolutely.
Yeah, we all have to do better, and that's true. But like I said, she's being honest. And I know, Chazz, we got to get out of here. I'll let you close it out because I can't seem to stop running my mouth. But I got to say this and let you go, because Chazz, I'm telling you, it's us, man. I'm telling you now. Yeah, the kids are gonna be kids, but Chazz, it's us, because in every society, in every civilization, it was the adults that led the children. It wasn't the other way around. And because we don't care about them anymore, we're too busy on our phones. We're too busy trying to find somebody. We're too busy trying to like somebody's post. We're too busy trying to watch somebody else's broadcast. We're too busy trying to do things. These kids, man, are having all kinds of thoughts. And this is why the lady said, we must do better. But a lot of us don't care about doing better. We could care less about this because we're so selfish, man. We're so selfish. It's all about us. And that's going to be our detriment. That's going to be the downfall of the African-American male and female in the United States of America, is we're so selfish. We could care less about these kids.
Wow. That was a good little rant. And tonight's broadcast was a terrible topic, which was basically about African-American youth suicide, the signs, what to look for. Quit being so hard upon them, showing them more love, showing them more care, being there for them, not always quick to put your hands on them when they do things incorrectly or not doing things the way you want them to be done. Quit spilling their business to any and everybody that'll listen. Quit always putting their information on social media. Quit always telling your neighbor about what your son or daughter is not doing. And in fact, we need to do a better job, as you mentioned earlier, brother. Tell them the positive things when they're up, because when they're up, nobody really cares, but we wait and hammer them when they're down. Tell them that there is love in this earth. And if they are feeling like committing suicide, tell them to reach out to someone. Like you said, you gave them our number. You can always find a group of people who will listen to your problems. There are people who care. If you are having these suicidal thoughts, it is really, really, really not worth it. And real quick, brother, you said we're going to do a follow-up next week.
I think we should. I don't think we should give this 1 week only, because whether people watch it or not, we have to tell it. And that's right. What the problem is, because they rather run the buildings on Sundays and do all these other things and not one time talk about the very people that you're sitting around, sitting there thinking about taking their own lives. And we too busy clapping and swinging from chandeliers and talking about the Ra and talking about the Ankh, talking about the cross and the crescent. And we're not talking about these kids who are our future. So this is why we are where we are, man. And it's like no one wants to be serious and have this discussion. And yet when we have this discussion, everybody's like us. You're quiet because you have nothing to say, because you know you're wrong. I know I'm wrong. But we're so hard. We're so stubborn that we can't even say in our hearts that our babies need us. That's an indictment upon us. But we're so hard, so callous, so cold that we can't say that. And yet when it happens to us, we're the ones that's going to want to sound the alarm. Don't wait till it happens to us. Sound the alarm, because it's happening as we speak right now, Chazz.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I gave my little piece a few minutes ago before I pass it back to you. And like I said, next week, hopefully we can come back, do a part 2 on this and get this one back started, because, brother, this is a tough subject. And just because we haven't buried anybody in our family yet about this topic, don't ignore it. Just don't ignore it. This is something serious that needs to be discussed.
On behalf of Chazz, I'm your big brother, Jahi. We'll see y'all next Wednesday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time for part 2 of African-American youth suicide. Bring a pencil, bring a notebook to take notes. We're going to have more videos, and hopefully we'll have comments of how we as a society have let the ball slip through our hands, and we need to pick it up and do a better job. So we thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We'll say to all y'all, see you next week in Hotel.
Take care, everybody.